It's Friday, and Las Vegas kids are back to school on Monday. So today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm here with the List.Vegas founder Andrew Corrali and my co-host David Figler. And we're covering new updates on Clark County School District safety protocols, hacker convention concerns, and our city mascot, the Orange Cone, this time appearing on I-15. It's Friday, August 9th. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Hi, David. Hi, Andrew.
Hey there.
Hi. So we're not going to do our hot headline game this week because honestly, our hot headline is kind of a bummer. So you might remember a couple weeks ago, we talked about this school on Charleston that got damaged in a hurricane last year. You remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Lundy.
Unfortunately, the school board voted 4-3 against repairing and reopening the school. So we're continuing to follow the story. And I know we say that a lot. So now we're actually going to make good on it. In the coming weeks, we're going to launch a new episode where we follow up on stories that we've covered in the podcast previously. So we'll close out some of these stories, and find out what happens as opposed to just reacting to the news during the course of a week. So listeners, listen out for that. Okay, speaking of schools, actually, kids are about to go back. There have been some new school safety developments in the CCSD. David, I think you got the story on that.
Yeah, I've been following it like I do every year. As you said, the school year starts back up on Monday. How many students do you think are in the Clark County School District, if you had to guess?
You got to put a guessing game in. Okay, so we've got 2.3 million people in the valley.
Yeah.
500,000?
Oh, interesting. What do you think, Andrew?
I would say north of that, maybe 800,000.
Oh. It's the 0.3. It's a little over 300,000 students.
Oh,
really? Oh, okay.
It's still a lot of students spread over 370 or so schools. So the school district held a presser with a lot of law enforcement types and the interim superintendent. So you had the interim superintendent, you had the chief of school police, you had a deputy chief down from LVMPD, and a lot of very dire-looking people standing in the background to talk about how safety is the most important thing. Of course, the message being if we have a safe environment in our schools, rest assured, parents, you could go to bed at night, and kids, you could come here to focus on learning, and also for the faculty and for the staff, etc. So they dropped three main new things. One is the cell phone pouches that we talked about, which is more about a distraction, diversion than it is per se a safety thing, I think. But they did talk about that. They also mentioned that they're going to have swipeable IDs to get into the school for the kids.
Like a college campus.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense too. And then the last one, the one that I guess is getting most of the heat, is the installation of these weapon detecting devices. They're like metal detectors, but they move a little faster. They have the ability to calibrate to look for things that aren't necessarily traditional metal. That could be a big mass that could be used as a weapon or something like that. So these weapon detecting devices are going to be at all sporting events. Mostly, they mentioned basketball and football by name. And then they're randomly going to show up at different schools, presumably middle schools and high schools. So you won't know when it is.
Permanent fixtures.
Those
daily.
Aren't, but they may still be using metal detectors because they have those in some of the places, and certainly wands. And I don't know. It's just a lot. But maybe the most interesting thing of all for someone like me. Oh, also, Sarah, you'll love this. They talked about how they have warning cartoons for the little ones with a mascot called Rocket Dog.
Rocket Dog. Okay, well,
Rocket
CBD
Dog
on
tells
Rocket
them to
Dog. I'm sure
see
we're going to
something,
talk about
say
that
something.
more.
Arf, arf.
Cheery yet dystopian.
Andrew, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah. My question was, did they give a sense of what this new detection system looks like? Is it a physical frame that you walk through, or is it a mobile thing?
Yeah, it's a physical frame that you walk through, basically.
Okay, like at a concert or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's detecting weapons. And they can service somebody every 3 seconds is how long it takes to reset. So that's much faster, apparently, than prior things. I think they're more focused on those basketball and football games.
That are daily
They also
school.
released a lot of data, and that data is being reported in the local media in a way that I don't know is what's the word I'm looking for? It's not misleading, but I don't think it tells a full story. There was a document that was called Firearm Confiscations. It's not just firearms, so there was a little bit of a misnomer.
Weapons, okay.
There was a total of 300, but when you break it down, it leaves more questions than it answers. So of the 300 confiscations, 64 were connected to adults, whatever that means.
Weird.
50 were off campus. The majority of them were knives. There were also 60 non-students involved. Other weapons was about 1/3 of it. So not a gun, not a knife. So who knows what they're talking about? Like giving those raw stats and it just being repeated to make it sound like there's a bigger problem that there is. And look, there's a problem. And there's a problem that's always been happening. I mean, when I was in school, there was a problem happening. There was a shooting at my school. So, and that was in 1983. So this doesn't go away, but it just gave off these weird dystopian vibes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously what we're talking here in uncertain terms is school shootings. I mean, certainly I'm sure there's also concerns about gang violence as well, but we're talking school shootings. You've experienced violence in your school, David. I still remember the changes that came into our school post-Columbine. We're talking a quarter of a century ago now, and we're still dealing with one of the most tragic parts of living in modern America is students not feeling safe within their school. So within that context, are these scanners a welcome development? Are they going to help students feel safer? Andrew, what do you think?
Well, it certainly doesn't seem to address the root problems, and I think that's what David's suggesting in his framing of this, and that is a robust educational system, a good social safety net, sane gun policy that could account for the proliferation of weapons. But it does sound like the statistics are a bit vague and scary to kind of advance the sort of security industrial complex, which is an industry with an economic interest in expanding its market, and schools are
Based
a
on
great
fear.
market for that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
David, I'm taking by your general stance and attitude, your physical stance this morning. You are not into this as an idea for our schools.
I hate it. I mean, of course I want kids to be safe. I just don't like the idea that it's all coming from a law enforcement lens. And while they did talk about, we want to have restorative programs, and we want to help kids, and we want to offer social workers, which they only have 8 police social workers, whatever that means, although that's up from 3. I want to hear the stories of how they're, getting to root cause stuff. Like, are they helping make sure that the families are stable? Are they dealing with why kids are going into gangs, if that's what it is? Are they making sure that kids are fed and that they have all the things that they need? And that, I want to see pressers on educational developments. I want to see pressers on how kids are thriving in our school district and how kids are happy to go to school and not going into a correctional facility.
Let's talk about the social workers that you mentioned, because of course I'm happy to hear about more social workers coming into schools. I want to see counseling and emotional support. It's interesting, that they're framed as police social workers. Do we have any sense of what they're actually going to be doing within the schools?
No, it wasn't part of the presentation, and there wasn't a lot of follow-up on it. And again, you're talking about 8 people for 300,000 students in 370 schools.
Sure, so it's not like one per school.
Well, and schools have counselors and schools have, programs within the schools too. There's a whole ecosystem, but that's not being celebrated or discussed. We're really just talking about, we're going to catch these weapons. We're going to catch these people who bring weapons on. I mean, they also talked about being prepared for the, horrific contingencies in this era of school shootings and bad things that happen. And that's all great too. But I think we're losing sight of, what it's like to be a kid going to school. And there were no kids there at this press conference. And there were no teachers that were talking at this conference. And this is just kind of the criticism of this, the superintendent prior and the current superintendent taking the mantle, is that it just seems very narrow lens focused to the public.
Okay, so Andrew, what would you hope a social worker working alongside both the police and the student body could do to change those student-police interactions for the positive?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think what they could do is probably just sort of soften the sense of, authoritarian presence that is imminent whenever, the police are around. But whenever I read in that article that they hired some new social workers and it was only 8, I thought like, oh my God, you're so close to the answer. You're so close to the answer, because that's what our schools need, is that, people get into this headspace where they're like, there's too much administration in the school district. I need to eliminate all those positions. And I'm like, no, school needs like multiple layers of administrations to create like an environment that is, safe and nourishing and supportive of kids, and
Yeah,
so again,
go-betweens between students and admins,
so like David
and
said,
teachers and students
yeah,
and
like
police.
yeah. So yeah, this this development with the weapons detection systems is maybe sadly necessary, but also very reactive and ultimately sadly short-sighted.
I hope with the police social workers, these are liaisons to help bring the temperature down a little bit, because of course we're living in the shadow of some of the things that happened last year, including a school police officer beating up a student. So obviously we're going to keep following the story, and we'll see how it goes this year. Okay, so one of the stranger things happening this week is there are back-to-back hacker conventions. Yes, hackers do have conventions happening in Las Vegas this week. And apparently the hotels hosting these conventions are sort of uneasy considering the massive hacking attempts about this time last year. Andrew, what is going on?
Yeah, I call it the hacker hangover. So yeah, with 2 cyber conferences in town this week, Resorts World is conducting inspections of guest rooms for evidence of hacking.
It's
The hotel.
DEF CON and what's the other one? Black Hat or something like that?
Yeah, so yeah, not the best names to instill a sense of safety and security, right? It's Black Hat USA, which just wrapped up at Mandalay Bay yesterday, and then DEF CON 32, which runs through Sunday at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And Resorts World officials are calling these daily room snoops, quote, scheduled, brief, visual, and non-intrusive inspections in response to, quote, this well-known hacking convention in town. So clearly they're subtly referring to at least one of those conventions in town, Black Hat
Every
or
day,
DEF CON.
every room?
Well, so that's what is unclear. So Resorts World said the inspections, started on Monday, and they're going to continue through the entire week. And obviously, this is in response to last year's high-profile hacking breaches of, the 2 strip giants, right? MGM Resorts International and Caesars Entertainment, who both got hacked in the fall. And Caesars Entertainment reportedly paid a $15 million ransom out of that as well. So, so it's obviously in response to that, even though there is no evidence that perpetrators of last year's hacks were associated with Black Hat USA or DEF CON or attended them. My sort of hot take is that this is a bit of reassurance, PR to at least, theatrically show guests like, hey, we're, kind of looking out for your cybersecurity in these strange times.
Yeah, so about that, what would a brief visual sweep of a hotel room even do for cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I want to first say that my authority level on cybersecurity topics is like negative 17,000. I have to reset my Pokemon Trainer Club password like 11 times per month.
But you wear glasses. I don't understand.
This is true. But yeah, actually, I have no idea what they would be looking for. I mean, I don't know if they're expecting to sort of burst in and see some hooded dude surrounded by a bunch of screens with Matrix, green characters on them, and he's like, I'm in, right? So clearly, hacking is, an invisible, it's an invisible pursuit. So again, that makes me suspect that, this is a bit of reassurance PR, a bit of security theater. Maybe they're looking for, maybe sort of an obvious hacker, device, but what would that look like, So, I don't even know what a visual sweep would look like. And
a phone.
Right.
A computer.
Who doesn't have those, right? It's really kind of baffling to me that what a visual search would turn up, unless they have some sort of device with them that could maybe, maybe like, pick up some kind of, radio signature. Because I know there are devices that you can buy on the gray market that could allow for like, card jamming or RFD chip access and things like that. So there might be some kind of counter technology where they could quickly scan a room, but who knows?
Lawyer David, do you have any insights
I don't think
here?
they're doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows if you could dismantle the mini fridge and get into the motherboard, you can have access to all the records of the hotel.
Oh, I thought you were going to say all the snacks, which is
And
really
all
where
the
my
snacks,
priorities
too.
are.
Yeah, you'd also get all the snacks. I mean, that's just the bonus. Ever since 1 October, the contents of a room, the ability to go into the room regular and not let you put the little thing on the door that says, please do not disturb, has been in flux. Add in the idea that we want to do daily housekeeping as part of culinary contracts. There's not a lot of privacy that probably remains for people in
Let
their
me
hotel rooms.
ask you about that specifically. Like, to what degree can we expect privacy in our hotel rooms nowadays? And is this a uniquely Vegas situation, or should we, is this now applicable to any hotel room in the country?
Well, I think you run into problems. Look, if it's law enforcement going in and opening up suitcases and things, that's problematic without warrants, okay? But a hotel room is a little different than a person's home, which is different from a person's car. There's all sorts of rules out there. If there is something suspicious looking, whatever that might be, and housekeeping were to find that, or security during these cursory, like, looky-loos inside a room see something, I think then they kind of have to take it up the chain. I mean, obviously, if somebody goes into a room and you see a pool of blood forming underneath the door of the bathroom.
I was just thinking they've all seen something.
Well, yeah. And there's also like yucky stuff that you're going to find in Las Vegas hotel rooms, y'all.
Yeah, stuff.
Not to mention the various bodies that have been found over the years. But, yeah. I hate that we live in this world that just has to be so vigilant and
Surveilled.
fearful all the time about everything. Oh, it's taking the fun out of just being a human.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
David.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting really down.
Go ahead, Andrew.
It's sort of a stale truism to say, that October 1 was, Las Vegas's, kind of our 9/11. And what's fascinating to me is that people have really gotten used to, I mean, that very quickly eroded this assumption that Vegas was always this kind of safe place for, your sordid secret life and what happens here stays here. And it's really fascinating how quickly people have sort of been comfortable with that Overton window of your comfort level with surveillance, changing. And we've talked about, in a previous episode about how the Sahara announced they were going to do room inspections during the scuttled Friends and Lovers Festival.
Yeah, I thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the vibe check on that was like, interesting, but that's the world we live in, So, I think that window's shifted, and I don't think you can expect as much, privacy as you once could, especially
Or keep your shoes on all the time.
Right.
Or belts.
Exactly. Yeah.
You just don't want people to see your feet, David?
It's worth it to get the TSA pre-check just so people
Oh,
don't have to look at my
100%.
socks.
$80 for 5 years? Get out of town.
Literally.
I mean, okay, here's my question. So, are these cursory inspections for hackers, which, again, Andrew, I actually think you brought up a good point. Like, they should just drop in microphones that only turn on when they hear, I'm in, and that is a surefire way to catch a hacker.
Right.
I mean, so obviously sex is legal the last time I checked, but what if someone has, illicit substances in their hotel room that are, seen during these hacker checks?
That happens anyway all the time. And I will tell you from personal
cleaners.
experience, if they see controlled substances, typically that person is going to be in trouble. They're going to call law enforcement.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I've had that situation before. Not always. I've also had situations where they kind of look past it.
Right.
Not personally, in my capacity as a lawyer.
Thank you for clarifying.
I have to sometimes.
Is there an inherent danger in allowing a group of hackers to convene on your property in Las Vegas, considering last year's debacle? I mean, no, because apparently this was done from
Right, from far
England,
away.
right?
Yeah, and the connection is just sort of facile, right? That they announced these, inspections, amid these two hacker conventions. And if a hacker really wanted to target Las Vegas, right, which they have and they did, it would not be the wisest move to target Las Vegas while you're actually in Las Vegas.
But also, is it wise to be like pissing off these hackers? Like
That's what I was just thinking, David.
Yeah.
They'll do some little hacks. They'll get the snacks out of the fridge.
the snack hack.
They'll snack
It was
hack
right there.
just to piss people
Right,
off.
yeah. File under like needlessly provocative, right? But hacking is something that's the beauty of hacking, right? You don't have to be on site to hack your target. You can be, half a world away. But I thought though, like it would be an interesting premise, like an audacious group of hackers actually comes to Vegas to hack Vegas. Be like a Ocean 17 kind of thing. Caper.
Or just for little things though, they're just getting free show tickets and
Capers.
Yeah,
Various
right,
capers
right.
around town.
I'd call it Ocean 17 backdoor firmware.
That's not
That's
the
got
kind of
such a
movie.
ring.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
maybe
it
not.
sounds like I have to pay-per-view that.
Right.
Listen, hackers beware. We're going to figure out your capers with our cursory hotel room looks. So watch out. You guys, there's construction. So I've already been fairly well living in it because the 515 has been under construction for 6 months and it's added 30 minutes to an hour to coming to see you two in Winchester and downtown. It is a heck of a journey from Penderson, but now there is more construction messing up things for other people in Las Vegas. That's the story. So I think you've been aware that the I-15 was actually closed the past 2 weekends, either the northbound or the southbound lanes, for a pave-a-thon, which I do like that they gave it a fun name, the old pave-a-thon. So they were closed for 48 hours each weekend. And then now Star Avenue I-15 southbound off-ramp is closed daily, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. And only 2 southbound I-15 lanes are open from St. Rose Parkway to Sloan Road on Monday through Wednesday, basically overnight during the week. So we're doing it, you guys. We're fixing the roads. You don't
I
seem
don't like
excited.
cutesy names for it. I don't like it.
Yeah, I
You
resent
don't like
those two.
Pave-a-thon? You don't like
No.
Tropicana?
I mean,
It's like, oh, it's not snarl traffic. It's mobile
Right.
meditation time.
yeah.
David, I like that shape. I like that, though. I'm going to take that forward, actually.
Mobile meditation time.
Mobile meditation. Yeah, I think it'll make me feel better when I'm sweating in Vegas traffic as my 2009
and
car.
screaming at the guy who just like zoomed up the lane that was closing so
Oh,
to
David.
get in
Drives
front of
me
everybody.
crazy.
It
that
only
guy.
in traffic does the New Yorker really come back out of me. All of a sudden, I'm like, hey! Like, it's just
Wait in line like everyone else. Thread.
instant.
Do that indignant shout again.
Hey!
Oh, I want to record that as for my ringtone after we're done.
Done. You got it. There's no thinking about it. It just comes out deeply, followed usually by
Yeah.
what are you doing? Because
Comes from a primal
it's-
place.
Yeah. And the hand, too, always. So what are the real world impacts for us residents of the Valley for an extra allegedly 20 minutes, but we all know it can be 30 or 40 minutes during rush hour? What is the impact of that extra time added to our commutes?
Well, if you don't have AC in your car, it's death.
That's
Yeah.
awful.
Do you ever, and you know when you're driving around and you see somebody with their windows down in the slow snarl, that
Yeah.
their road rage potential is like going through the roof at that point.
Yep.
And also their potential that they're going to just crash.
You guys, I've stopped driving anywhere during daylight as much as possible because I don't
That's
have
smart,
tinted
yeah.
windows. And it's just like my car, the AC literally cannot keep up. And I just feel like so gross and miserable just like running errands in the middle of the afternoon, you know? Hottest time of the day is evening rush hour in Vegas. It's nuts. Okay, so potential death is one real world impact.
That's one bad side effect of all this traffic stuff.
But and that's a great point because I wonder if somebody needs to do some kind of grand accounting, right? Because you say like, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. But if you aggregate all those 20 minutes and talk
Oh my
about
God,
things
yeah.
like lost productivity, lost revenue, whatever the, GDP kind of, calculation would be versus
Well, and just showing up completely exhausted because
Well, yeah.
it was so hot
Well,
for
yeah,
so long.
and that would be like a productivity and revenue thing, right? Like you can't work as well at your job, or you get
Or do you get fired
heat exhaustion,
because
or
you're late?
right, exactly. And then I wonder, like, well, what are the economic benefits of widening I-15? 3 more lanes, and which encourages more traffic, and then fills it up, and then you got to repeat the cycle, and it's like I wish there was some sort of grand meta accounting of all the social and economic benefits and costs, so we can talk about it just beyond terms of like, well, it's just endure the pave-a-thon today, and you'll have a beautiful new freeway tomorrow.
Sonia Cho Swanson, executive producer, just says that all of Las Vegas is 20% grumpier. I'd love to see your data sets on that.
I think that's true.
Sonia, but yeah, and it's also just because it's the summer too.
It's rage season.
People aren't driving well. People don't drive well when they're boiling in their cars. I've also noticed that.
They're probably
Everyone's
carrying more weapons too.
a little bit out of it.
Get the weapons detector on them.
Oh my God, we're really going. Here it is. Here's where we start going off the rails. Okay, so last question then. So put your engineering hats on. Boop.
Oh.
There they go. How do we get people across this stretch of construction? Obviously there's huge swaths of highway that have been closed down. Wrong answers only.
All right.
Zip line. Obviously, zip line.
Oh, zip line. Yeah, that's a good one.
Slotzilla.
Yeah.
And we've got the
Slotzilla.
technology. We just need to expand it.
Yeah.
I say that, I propose that Nevada Department of Transportation partners with the upcoming Age of Chivalry Renaissance Festival.
Now we're
They
talking.
construct a gigantic public transit trebuchet, and they catapult people to their destination in dramatic medieval fashion.
How do they land safely, sir?
AI.
Yeah, exactly. That's the answer to everything right there.
Okay, well, I say
Robots catching them.
The Venetian gondoliers need to earn their keep. Let's gondolier people. We'll just roll the cars into water like those duck tours, and the gondoliers will pull them past the construction. Everyone's happy. They had a nice
Do you
boat
know,
ride.
Sarah, there was once a legitimate proposal to turn downtown and Fremont Street into
A canal
Venice
district?
of the desert,
Yeah.
and to have gondolas
Can you
cart
imagine?
people around the casinos.
That's
That's
a
right.
whole. Wow. Just what would end up in those canals for real? We would be like a real Venice in the desert in no time.
Yeah, be like Lake Mead on Fremont Street.
I actually like that better. That's just when
Fremont Street is
floods.
sort of like Lake Mead without the water. It's all the stuff on the bottom.
Lake Mead is like
sorry.
Lake Mead without the water, period.
Or we could just invest in fucking public transit that works for our city.
Amen.
Oh, I'd love that. All right. Well, I think we've solved all of the Valley's problems today. Well done. Well done, Andrew. Well done, David. Thank you for
Per
being
usual. That's what we do.
here.
We hack problems.
That's all for today here in CityCast Las Vegas. Our producers this week were Sonia Cho Swanson, Layla Muhammad, and Selena C. Reynolds. Our newsletter editor is Rob Katchel-Reese, and our hosts are David Figler and myself, Sarah Lohman. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and all the kimonos. We record this show on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi, the Southern Paiute people. And if you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate our show and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Take care.
All security
right.
guards are going to have to watch war games or something. Crap.
Or hackers.
I'm in.
I know hackers just seem too obvious, so I went with war games.
We're
Good
okay.
one. Good one.
All
Big
right.
Weird
cut.
science.